Gen Z and millennials have embraced self-care to the point that it's more than just a trend. With its excessive amount of rituals and steps, it's practically a religion now. How much so? Religion is estimated to be one of the biggest businesses in the world, with a market cap usually around 1.4 trillion. Self-care? 1.8 trillion. It's bigger than Jesus now.
The skincare industry is growing faster than ever.
Right now, people are at maximum stress.
Cultivating ourselves by attending to our immediate needs.
But when self-care becomes selfish or just another reason to buy things we don't really need, are we really helping ourselves? Today, I'm diving into the hidden dangers of self-care culture, breaking down what's truly beneficial or what actually might be hurting us. And we're gonna also talk about what actual self-care is. Whew, I'm tired. Okay, skincare. Why is my skin so red in the morning? Oh my gosh, I should have put on a pimple patch. Is that face mask just doing more harm than good? Maybe I need an oil. No, it's sunscreen. Oh, retinol, but the retinol makes my skin red. Oh my god. Keltie, just stick to the basics. Basics, vitamin C, moisturizer, sunscreen. Okay, but what was that new sunscreen I got? No, it's fine. The one you have is fine. But it's Sephora days. Add everything to the cart. How funny is it that I'm filming this and a Sephora ad literally came on? Oh, life is poetic. There's endless products now. There used to be just a couple, but it is crazy how many different brands there is and how many products each brand has. And we're constantly being fed, whether it be commercials, influencers like myself, like how they're gonna improve our lives, these products. Because you'll have confidence. And once you have confidence, the world is yours. And I'm all for self-care. I think it's really important, but I've just noticed a couple things that are really toxic when it comes to self-care culture online. Here are some examples. Number one, self-care is selfish. There's a lot of cutting people out, putting on boundaries, don't compromise, don't sacrifice for anyone else. And it's true, we should have boundaries, but also I think we're in a loneliness epidemic and we're always being bombarded of cut people out. It's all about you. Self-care, self-care, self-care. When I've just noticed a lot in life of when you do things with others and help others, that's actually an act of self-care because it feels really good and gives you purpose. And we're getting to the point of sometimes weaponizing boundaries. Like the example of if you don't love me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. And it's true, but sometimes I think we hurt others. There's a lot of examples online of hurting others and not taking into the other person's feelings. And as a people pleaser myself, I know it's hard not to just always think of the other person, but I think it's just that line. I just think it's not so black and white. If your self-love disregards others' feelings or is dishonest, then it isn't true self-love. 2, the feel-good only mindset. Treat yourself. Spark joy. We've heard it 1,000 times. And it's kind of this idea of just doing things that constantly feel good. But along our own journey in life, to do things that you actually enjoy, you have to do some hard work at the start. I'm gonna give you an example of avoiding having tough conversations, just have good vibes. I'm guilty of this. I don't want to bring up an awkward conversation because I don't want to disrupt the peace and we're all happy and all this. But the truth is a lot of us are adults. And sometimes we have to have those uncomfortable conversations with friends, family, coworkers. And I even hate this term, but toxic positivity. And I'm guilty of this. And some self-care articles and just activities kind of implement that if it makes you feel bad, that means it's inherently wrong. So don't do it. 3rd, bed rotting and overindulgence. A trend I've seen a lot online is the concept of bed rotting. And don't get me wrong, we all need a cozy sweatpants lay in bed moment. And that should be 100% guilt-free. But sometimes I think we take it to the extreme now. As much laying in bed is really comfortable, sometimes the thing you need is go outside and that actually helps it versus just laying in bed. Yeah, it's cozy and comfortable. It's not actually solving the problem. And one day, if you're gonna decide, you know what, you're really gonna treat yourself, you're gonna relax, having a bag of Doritos laying in your bed and you're that is peak relaxation. I'm going to be so rejuvenated after. Do it. But when you're doing it multiple days on end, we also have to remember things like bed rotting. As much as it's innocent and a fun TikTok trend, multiple days of not being able to get out of bed is a sign of depression. Sometimes I feel we're, lack of better terms, enabling ourselves when we're just doing things like bed rotting all day to solve our problems because it's not solving our problems. It feels good and relaxation. We're going to talk about rest later on in this video, but it's not the solution. And this is probably the biggest one for me. Next up, consumerism masking itself as self-care. I don't think anyone knows what self-care is anymore because of marketing. We know skincare, but there's so many things. There's face masks, there's crystals, there's journals. And it's always these are a part of your routine and this routine is what will make you happy. But a lot of these things are not necessary to actually do self-care. Next up of where it can be toxic is just being really strict and rigid. If your self-care routine is these like really strict rules, whether it be a strict diet, strict skincare, like that you can't compromise, I think we also have to step back and be like, is that self-care when we're just like super rigid and disciplined that like it actually starts to get in the way of other things in life? Like I'll use diet as a really easy one. If you start having these really strict rules on diet, eating nutritious food is really good. And if you have goals, that's great. But like if you're so rigid and strict that like you stop seeing friends and family and it's getting in the way of work and productivity, like that isn't self-care anymore. And the last toxic thing is like mental health struggles. With obviously I'm not a therapist, this is just an observation I'm noticing online as someone who does have mental health issues myself. I find even myself, like sometimes I'm unable to improve my behaviors and I'm like doing all these self-care and these techniques and it's like, no, you need like medical intervention. You need a therapist, you might need medicine. Like my OCD and skin picking, a lot of times people are like, oh, just put a pimple patch on. I'm like, you don't understand. And that's just my own unique thing. But the longest time I thought I could just cure my skin picking by having good skin. And it's not the case because it's a coping mechanism I have developed since childhood and I have to deal with my stress and anxiety to help get over this. So I think there's a lot of these things that we don't realize are actually mental health struggles that we're just like putting a band-aid on with self-care and be like, oh, that will fix it. It does if it's not severe mental health issues. And now I want to talk like some niche examples I have of like toxic self-care things I've seen online. One, I'm not a parent, I don't want to judge, but letting your children do excessive skincare routines.
All I wanted this year was skincare and makeup.
I would love to hear in the comments. Obviously, little kids are going to look up to these influencers that are doing these skincare, like even myself, and then they want to mimic. But I'm like, you don't need retinol at 12. Maybe sunscreen, a little moisturizer. Like, you'll be fine. You'll be fine without it. So that's one, not to parent shame, but I just see it and I'm like, ooh, I don't think that's helpful for the kids. 2, avoiding financial health for beauty treatments. I'm sorry, girl math, as much as it's fun, not self-care. 3, myself included, influencers advertising self-care products and services. A lot of times it isn't self-care, it's just consumerism and the beauty industry. And we need to separate the two. 5, just services in general advertise as self-care. That could even be the gym membership, a Pilates class, staycations you decide to do. Like, it's just that excessive consumerism and separate that from just like you just need a basic gym membership or you just be influenced by all the Pilates princesses online. And 6, just the idea that it has to cost money. And those are just some things I've noticed, but what are the professionals saying? Naomi Torres-Mackey, a licensed clinical psychologist at Lenox Hill Hospital in New York City, head of research of the Mental Health Coalition. In her clinical practice, Torres-Mackey sees people overdo self-love. Maybe taking a 20-minute break from work is your form of self-care that leaves you feeling replenished and ready to take on your next meeting, she explained. But taking that to an extreme, stretching a 20-minute break to a 3-hour one that helps you avoid a difficult project, that qualifies as false self-love or self-love turned toxic. Self-care is not easy and is definitely not a cure for any sort of mental health issue. Now at the beginning I talked about Gen Z and millennials. And is this a generational thing? Stats are showing that Gen Z and millennials are spending more money than any generation on self-care products. Now, as someone who is a younger millennial, I feel I'm kind of smack dab in this. I definitely was like in high school, university when Instagram came on, and it was just something in our formative years that we were talked about. We didn't really see our parents do it. Self-care was just not talked about at all with older generations. And then I think it's really been good. We talk so much about our mental health, and one thing with mental health is self-love, self-care, filling up your own cup. If your cup is empty, you can't give it to others. Like, that is kind of the premise. But I think we've almost taken it to the extreme. Like, it's a whole component online of self-care routines. And like with that, anything good, marketing comes in. And I have to step back so often and just like, relax, you're overworking, you're stressed, you're doing too much. Put up boundaries. Don't wear yourself thin. I'm a people pleaser. Like, I'm guilty of this. But then I also have just in the last couple of years been like, I think sometimes it's borderline selfish. And at what point do I need to do all these things? And I love skincare. I love makeup. I love feeling pretty. But I also sometimes have to step back and have a realization with myself of like, I'm doing more harm than good. I'm spending money I don't have to. But there's just so much now. There's so many options. And I don't think it's so black and white for our generations, because previous generations, there just wasn't that many options. Maybe there was a couple Dove commercials, Old Spice, you go into Walmart, you see the few aisles. Now we have Sephora, Amazon, Ulta, TikTok shop. There used to be just makeup girlies. Now there's skincare girlies, and it all falls under this same umbrella, and we can just mask it as self-care because it is self-care. But I think the biggest term that I've tried to differentiate, and I don't see it talked about, but there's self-care and there's self-maintenance, and they're different. And the pipeline really seemed to be like 2012, Instagram came in, OG makeup YouTubers. And then it wasn't as common, but this is the first time we really see the Kylie lip kit and all that come and that being part of mainstream. At the same time, we're talking about mental health struggles, and it was this like hybrid. And then 2020 was when it just catapulted. I feel like 2016, the makeup gurus online and the Jeffree Stars of the world and all that were just like taking over YouTube. But 2020, when it got onto TikTok and all we could do was sit at home and do self-care, and like skincare wasn't really talked about into that moment, but it was like skincare took off and we all spent all this money because we had nothing else to spend money on. And it was like this first time we could slow down and do good things. It was just like a weird time, and now it's just become a way of our life. Like I think it was a coping mechanism for a lot of us during that time. It was saying we could concentrate, work on ourselves. But now that we're in the real world, we're like, okay, let's stop with the 12-step skincares. That's not actually helping us in any way. Okay, I have way too many thoughts in my head. I have to do this work, all this. No, I just need to sit down in silence and just like meditate, just get with these thoughts. Okay, just sit. Oh, but I have that aloe mat that would be way more funny. I'll get that. Oh, I could write these down though. I just bought that new journal. Okay, I'm gonna grab that. Oh, I could get a face mask. Oh, I have too many thoughts in my head. Keltie. You're thinking through. But the supplements, there's those like nootropics I can get, and that will help concentrate. Oh my, Kate, I'm buying. Just stop, Keltie. Just sit down right where you are and sit and meditate and just be. Let the thoughts quiet. Oh, I got too many thoughts. What was that new supplement I meant to buy? Oh my God, it was that like nootropic. No, it was the mute. We are about to get sick. Oh my God. Oh, I don't need any of that because I take AG1. Speaking of things that supplement, now for a word from our sponsor this video, AG1. There's a lot of noise in this world. There's a lot of supplements, a lot of things you're constantly bombarded, myself included. That's what pays to make these videos. But I try to do things that simplify your routine, really things that are studied and useful. And for me, that's AG1. One of the reasons I love AG1 is it has a wide variety of nutrients and it's multiple supplements in one. The amount of times I've heard on a podcast, like, oh, you need to be taking more vitamin blank or whatever it is. And then I look, it's like, oh, I have been taking it for the last 4 years because I take AG1 every single day. You probably hear a lot of things about gut health. Well, I love AG1 because it has prebiotics and probiotics. It's the 6th season. You want things to help giving your body all the nutrients it needs that your immune system can run properly. That is why I take AG1, because I know just like all the wide variety of nutrients that support my immune system are in AG1. It's an easy, healthy habit I incorporate, and it's just one of those things that simplify my self-care routine, because one of the things about self-care is nourishing your body. But I don't have to be taking a ton of all these different supplements. I was like, taking a green powder is something I've chosen to do. It depends on you, but I like that it just gives me a wide variety of nutrients in this one scoop that I take every single day. And right now, AG1 is offering a surprise bonus limited edition gift in addition to the welcome kit when you first subscribe. It won't last long, so head to drinkag1.com/Keltie to check it out while supplies last. Next up, just the problem with self-care products. Products are just too good right now. Around 2016 was like a shift. I don't know, did you notice this? It was really what I'm gonna deem as the rise of like aesthetic Instagram, curated feeds, Pinterest. It wasn't just like what we were all doing. It was like marketing a really beautiful life. And that's where we started seeing makeup tutorials. Along the line, also skincare became a part of it. And at first it was just really innocently. I think like girls, we like to do makeup. Skincare is important, and we just found influencers that were doing it. And then the marketers caught on. So I broke down things that we would consider hashtag self-care that I actually think are just marketing disguised as like something you need in your self-care routine. Number one, skincare and just beauty products. I have to say it. There's serums, there's face masks, there's all this. There's just these 10-part routines. It's always like, this is the one thing that you possibly need. And at the end of the day, I do spend quite a bit of money on my skincare, and I'm so guilty of like hearing this new serum will solve this. But like, I found the only thing that's worked is like over the last couple of years, I feel like why I've been able to get my skincare to improve is like every few months I buy one product and I implement it after doing a lot of research and see if it actually does anything. And after several months, if it does change everything, I continue it in my routine. But this idea of like, you have to completely clear out your routine and buy this new product, and this influencer is promoting this brand and now they're promoting this. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm definitely not. I've screwed up many times, but I think as influencers even, we have to hold our ground a bit more. I get updates all the time of like, Keltie, updated hair care routine. It's been the same for 4 years. It worked, so not feeling the need to always get the new thing. Now, eventually, science does progress and we should be aware and still looking into it, but just like not constantly being like, there's a new, better thing. Like, if it works, stick to it. Next up, wellness accessories. This is where I was like, I don't think we realize like how big self-care is. There's things like crystals, CBD, sound baths, gratitude journals. And it almost is like, I get this feeling of like, I can't relax because I don't have like a vibe. So I need this sound bath, or I have trouble relaxing. So I need this CBD drink. Like there's just constantly like, this is the one thing that will solve that. Because if you have that, you're able to relax, and because you relax, you're more rested and you can do everything better. And it's just a realization that like no product will solve everything. It might be help, but like how much help do you really need? And next up, self-care services. From gym memberships to like rage rooms. Yeah, like that could be like, come, you have too much stress, go hit a bunch of stuff and spend money. And even gym memberships, of course you need a gym membership, but it's like the excessive spending on gym memberships and things. And I'm guilty of it. And I've been this many of times, like, oh, this is a solution, and this, I need this and this and this. And I just think that self-care shouldn't just be like another thing to do on your to-do list / to buy list. Just look at all these different things that are in the self-care industry. Books and journals, sleeping remedies, skincare, natural skincare products, bath, body scrubs, toothbrushes, dental accessories, soap, salt, self-care planners, natural home products, air purifiers, natural fiber goods, compost, plants and air purifiers, poop stools, CBD products, sound baths, crystals, jewelry, and much, much more. And these were all noticed by the ASD Market Week and self-care trends for retailers in the year 2022. Okay, time to work out. Oh, do I need a pre-workout? No, just, you had a coffee. You're fine. Ooh, I have been wanting to try that All Methods gym in Vancouver. No, it's not on ClassPass. Just use ClassPass. You already have it. Just go to your regular. You're fine. Okay. Ooh, I'm going to go for a run first. Okay. I need my glasses, running vest. Ooh, do I need some gels? And how long am I going to walk? Oh, have you seen those new running shoes? I could use that. Oh, is this cold weather, hot weather? I need several layers. Oh, headband. Oh, I need to track it. Ooh, how am I going to track it? No, Keltie, just go for a run. Just go for, oh, but I haven't gotten the new, I have seen everywhere those new On Clouds, like spray-on shoes that would make it faster. Just, your shoes are fine. Just get out the door. The rise of commodified self-care. How much money are we talking? In 2014, self-care was estimated to be about $1 billion. 2020, about $450 billion. And now it is estimated to be $1.8 trillion. I think we can just see that as how much it's increased. And it's no longer just this like subculture. It is a part of like the pillars of our life now, self-care. Let's look at how self-care turned into one of the most profitable trends of the last decade. Originally, self-care was about nurturing ourselves in genuine ways. Things like taking time to rest, connecting with loved ones, investing in personal growth. Somewhere along the line, self-care became a product, a hashtag, and $5.6 trillion market. Today, the self-care product industry has an estimated value of $41 billion. It's estimated to grow to $81 billion by 2023. These are former stats. And as self-care and rituals has become synonymous with wellness, the number has grown to $5.6 trillion. That is crazy growth. Actually insane. As overall trends in health and wellness continue to expand, the topic of self-care is everywhere. In fact, nearly 9 out of 10 Americans, 88%, actively participate in self-care, and 1/3 of consumers have increased their self-care behaviors during the past year. Number one, we've seen the rise of commodified self-care, from genuine restorative practices to 10-step skincare routines. 2, just a market explosion and consumerism. How much has risen from 2014 to 2022? 3, this is also at the time of the loneliness epidemic. Our generations are lonely. We're having trouble finding friends. We're having trouble finding partners. Like, a lot of us are lonely. And so what's the one thing you can do alone is self-care, and it's promoted as good and part of wellness, and it is good, but like I feel it's just this another activity that forces you to be alone. Next up, just wellness as a consumer ideal. The concept of wellness has really expanded from the 1960s and 1980s. That was like the first concept of it, but that was just like being healthy, not being sick. And now it is like no longer about not being healthy, not being sick. It's about like being beautiful, healthy, absolute optimization of every factor of your life. I found this Vox article super interesting. How the self-care industry has made us lonely, by Ali Vogt. As self-care industry hits its stride in America, so did interest in seemingly dire state of social connectedness. In 2015, a study was published linking loneliness to early mortality. In the years that followed, a flurry of other research illuminated further effects of loneliness: depression, poor sleep quality, accelerated cognitive decline, and many more. By 2018, half the country reported feeling lonely, or at least sometimes, according to a Cigna survey. There's no singular driver of collective loneliness globally. A confluence of factors like smartphones, social media, high rates of anxiety and depression, vast inequality, materialism, and jam-packed schedules have been identified as potential spurring the crisis. And then things like a new eyeshadow, a bullet journal, all these things seem to like replace that feeling of emptiness we had. And so yes, we've been filling the emptiness void of loneliness with self-care products to make ourselves feel better when we really just need to hug someone. So far, we've talked about like the actual things that might be toxic. We've talked about how self-care is now a consumer thing. So what is actually self-care? I think we've lost the plot. Like, when I think of self-care, what's the first thing that pops in your head? Tea in a bubble bath, face mask. We all do it. Like, I'm guilty. I typed self-care on Pinterest to find a photo for this thumbnail, and it's all face rollers, things, all this, but like, what is it? Like, I needed to go find a reminder of like, what actually is self-care aside from just self-maintenance and the beauty industry. Self-care means taking the time to do things that help you live well and improve both your physical and mental health. So here's some ideas of things that are like actual self-care, because you could go on forever, but I've kind of narrowed it down to some things I found on the internet. One, at the end of the day, number one, the best self-care activity you can do is like anything that invests in your future self. Two, I love the concept of like the 7 types of rest everyone needs. And I learned this from a TED Talk. 1, you need physical rest, self-explanatory. 2, mental rest. 3, sensory rest. Like sometimes I think we're just like overstimulated and like just be in silence, lay on a cold floor. You'd be shocked like how often like you're like, whoa, I just have like had too much stimulation. 4, creative rest. As someone who has a creative job, like sometimes I realize I'm like, I just have to go not think. Like I tell my partner sometimes, like if I've had a really hard creative day, I'm like, my brain is empty. I'm gonna go do nothing. Just create nothing. Because you need that time off. Like we're not meant to just like create and create and create. And I think Instagram and TikTok is really promoted, like make 8 reels a day and be on TikTok all these times. I'm like, that's why I think a lot of things feel lackluster. It's because it's quantity, not quality. And the only way to really make creative things is to treat it like a muscle and rest. And that's not just social media. That's a lot of jobs. I always joke like accounting, because I think we think of that as the epitome of not creative, but there's creative ideas in every single job, like thinking of new ways to formulate things in stuff like accounting or a more mathematical based job. Emotional rest, social rest, even as extroverts, and last, spiritual rest. Third thing that's actually self-care, sleep hygiene. So having a structured sleep routine and making it a priority, just getting to bed at the same time and just doing like the basics. That doesn't mean you have to have like 1,000 steps. It just means like not staring at bright lights at night and going to bed and waking up around the same time. 4, at the end of the day, remember, everyone can give you a bunch of ideas of how to prioritize self-care, but it's individual and you really have to say, what's actually gonna fix this for me? So do we say self-accountability? 5, some things have to be treated as non-negotiable. As much as it's like, oh, I'm not in the mood and I'm tired and it's self-care, you gotta pay your bills. You got to respond to that email. I'm guilty. I don't respond to my emails. I'm like, oh, I'm tired. I'm just like overworked. No, Keltie, you have to pay your bills. And that's a form of self-care. 6, creating routines that help you do the things like self-care, but not being so rigid that it starts to diminish from other areas of your life. 7, getting regular exercise. Yep. That's a form of self-care. 8, nourishing your body. Eating, hydrating in a way that just really makes you energized and fills you up, physically and mentally. 9, setting goals and prioritizing them. Number 11, practicing gratitude. And 12, just staying connected to people that mean a lot to us. I like this from Psychology Today to tell if it's true or false self-care. False self-care gives you short-term escape from stress. True self-care are actions that promote physical, mental, and emotional and financial health now and in the future. So like, let's give some examples of false self-care. You find yourself avoiding things you need to do. You feel guilty, worry, or anxious about these actions. It damages your physical, mental, emotional, or financial health. And lastly, you cannot afford these things. Example, endless scrolling on social media, going on social media instead of work. Excessive excuse to avoiding exercising, and overworking so much you neglect relationships in your life or your health and wellness. And it's a lot of, I hear these all the time, and it's just like any therapist, you hear like, oh, do these and do these things, but it's gonna be different for every single person of like what self-care is. And some people, it is gonna be a face mask. And I think it's just like, as long as there's the barometer, is that harming other things in your life? Are you spending too much money? Are you wasting time? Is it just a Band-Aid cure? But here are some examples I feel over the last year specifically, I've really tried to be like, separate what is self-maintenance and what is self-care. And this is my own personal like self-care routine. Number 1, turning off notifications. No notifications on my phone. My phone and Apple Watch no longer vibrate. There's no bing, there's no vibrate. I just will see it occasionally when I look down, but it's not like distracting me. 2, turn on the sleep mode on my phone. So I have boundaries like that. Like I don't have to put up boundaries that like I never talk to anyone, but like, no, I don't have to be responding to an Instagram notification at 2 a.m. instead of sleeping. 3, a simplified morning and night routine. I was really guilty of having like all these optimization and add this and prioritization. The last couple of months, I've really tried to just simplify it. As long as it makes me have really good quality sleep and feel energized to start my workday, that's all I need to be doing. I don't need to have a work day before I get to work because I have a 20-step morning routine. 4, mindfulness, just being present, just in everything I do with life, just be here, be present, don't overthink it to the future. Easier said than done, but wow, It really helps. 5, avoiding social media on weekends. This might not be for everyone, but I find like the weekends I can do the endless scroll, and that like I feel this sensation that I need to buy things. I think that's the biggest thing for me. And as someone who's trying to work on their financial health, constantly going to social media and seeing these beautiful things that I want is not good for me. So I just try and avoid it on weekends when I can suddenly end up at the mall. 6, eating healthy and regularly, just eating in a way that fuels me, eating a lot of nutritious food. It's not following a strict diet, but even just like for me, making sure I'm getting 3 meals a day kind of around a consistent time, and that's when I feel my best. 7, exercise routine, duh. 8, maintaining and really adding energy into my relationships, whether it be calling my mom, just figuring out the love language of not just my partner, but my best friend, so I can show them how they want to be loved. I think that's been a big thing in the last year for me, is like just really not saying, this is how I show love, is also being like, how do my friends receive love, and just trying to do that for them. 9, utilizing mental health techniques, meditation, mindfulness. At the end of the day, a walk solves everything. It does. If a walk can't solve the problem in your head, you actually have to like call your mother. That's when you call your mother if a walk doesn't fix it. But 99% of the time, if I go on a walk, I'm like, oh yeah, it's not that deep. I just have to do this. I was overthinking it. 10, taking a deep breath. We're gonna do it together. The physiological sigh. You just inhale twice without breathing in between, and exhale. So you go like right there. Anytime I'm just like overwhelmed, anxious, just I hope you did it right there, right? Are we not just chill? Like, we could just end the video right there. Like, it's all good now. That's it. It's not. Just got a few minutes. Hold tight. But right now, you're just so chilled. You're like,
It's okay, Keltie. Take another 2 minutes with your video. I'm relaxed.
And last but not least, 11, laugh. Oh my God, is that not the best self-care? It's so cheesy, but like you can't be in a bad mood when you're laughing, literally. It's so obvious, but like you can't force yourself to laugh. But I've just realized like I'm doing the right things in my life when I'm laughing more. That means I'm rested. That means I'm hanging out with people that energize me. So a good barometer for me is like how often I'm laughing. If I haven't laughed in a few weeks, I'm like, you girl are doing things wrong. You should be laughing a couple times a day. As a non-medical professional, that is what I prescribe you. Just kidding. I'm not allowed to prescribe anything. That is a joke, YouTube. Do not get mad at me for medical malpractice. But you can't get mad for me telling everyone to laugh. Like, that's kind of evil, YouTube. Just kidding. I love you, YouTube. Please don't punish me. Now, I'm not perfect. I'm saying this as someone who feels pressured every day to have a 30-step skincare routine, like build a capsule wardrobe, start the new fitness challenge, like, go to the new Pilates studio, buy that new smoothie, buy colostrum. Like, I feel guilty and bombarded by it every single day, and it's exhausting. And I don't have the solution, but the one thing that I always turn back to is like awareness and checking in with ourselves. And I know it's even like for me, every few weeks, like stepping back, examining my routines, my habits, like, am I doing things that are good, or am I just like spending all this excessive money in hopes to feel good, but then I'm stressed about finances, so it completely defeats the purpose. A big word I've been really trying to bombard in my head lately is needs. And it's tricky. I go on social media and see these girls in all these really cute winter jackets, and I'm like, oh, it's chilly here. I do need a new winter jacket. And then I go look in my closet, I'm like, you have 8 winter jackets, you're fine. And really trying to differentiate between want and need. And it is really hard right now because marketing and products are so good that you can convince yourself it is a need, not a want. And I really have to sit back and be like, do I absolutely need this to survive, or will I be okay and this is just a want? Here's a little tip. If you don't know, I have a little list. I use Notion to organize my thoughts, and I just have a list of things I've wanted to buy. And every single time I see something I want, I'm like, ooh, is that good? I just put it in the list. And then it's like out of thought, out of mind. And then every once in a while I go look at that list and it's like 50 things. I'm like, you don't need any of this. And it's almost something about like I've dealt with it in some ways. It kind of gives that satisfaction of like, oh yeah, I'll come back and buy this. And out of that whole list, I think I'll buy one thing. And no wonder we all feel burnt out. Not even in work are we working excessive hours, but like every day we turn social media, we realize we're not even like recovering well. There's like more we could do to recover, more we could do to self-care, more things we could buy. And because we're buying more things, we have to work more. Because we have to work more. And I think it's just getting out of that. And it's fun. Social media is fun, and beauty products are fun, and fashion is fun. And I love all these things, but I think we just always have to do a step back. And I know for myself, I have to be like, Keltie, are you trapped in the rat race? Take a step out and ask yourself, like, what do I actually need right now? So I think we just have to ask ourselves, is it self-care or is it an excuse to avoid something? We can't just put a label of self-care and indulgence on every little thing and make it an excuse as much as we'd like to, because we're going to regret it in the future. Pay your bills, work out, call your mom, show up to work, get enough sleep. And then, yeah, when the new eggnog latte at Starbucks launches, go treat yourself. That, you know what I mean? We're allowed to treat ourselves, but we can't just treat ourselves on everything. Also, is the eggnog latte coming back at Starbucks? Because it didn't last year, and I'm salty and I'm angry. I'm angry. That's That's all the problems. The eggnog latte went missing and then everything went downhill. Consumerism took over. Bring back the eggnog. And lastly, I'm just gonna do one little solution. The best self-care actually is dancing. I realized this, I was in a fitness class the other day and it was pounding music and I was just dancing around and it felt so good. I was like, this was all I needed. I just need some music around people and dance. And that will solve all your problems. That, laugh, and rest a little. And if that can't, call your mom. But I'd love to hear what are your guys' idea of self-care being just marketing now versus like what is actually self-care. And at the end of the day, share with me something you've bought in that you've been guilty of from marketing that you're like, wow, that I did not need and that was just not good for my financial health. Or two, mention some things you do that is actually self-care. Like for me, laughing, dancing, petting a dog. Let me know down in the comments. And most importantly, have a great day. Go pet a dog. Love you guys. Bye.